Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Danielle, aka Stitcherista here on YouTube, and today is Sunday, April 30th. It is the last day of the month. This month seemed to go by pretty quickly. It's hard to believe we're just whizzing through this year. I mean, we are almost halfway through the year, which is like, wow. I hope you all are having a good weekend. So very exciting that I am on the last section of Queen of Hearts of this diamond painting. I still am unsure as to whether to do Tea Rose Fairy next or Queen of the Snow Fairies. I think I'm going to do Tea Rose Fairy. Those two are definitely the ones being done next, for sure. I know I changed my mind so many times, but I'm pretty sure those are the two that I really want to do next. And then Rainbow Flower Power. And Bill and I were talking about that one because I was thinking of the logistics of framing it. Because when that one goes up on the wall, that one's not going to be switched out unless I do another really big diamond painting. Because I have seen images of that finished. It is astounding. And that is going to take me, I feel, a really long time to do. So Bill was like, well, why don't we do, because I told him like how big it is and it's going to be heavy. And he said, well, why don't we do 2 magnetic frames? And I'm like, that's not going to look right. He's like, well, don't you want it to match the other ones? And I said, if I can't get a magnetic frame big enough to hold that one, what my plan was to still put the glitter washi tape on the outside of it, but I was going to get a piece of foam core and use, glue spray on the back of the canvas, just like I was framing it, except don't frame it. And then I would just hang the foam core piece up on the wall with 3M picture hangers, because remember, I'm forbidden from putting holes in the walls. Right, we remember this. So he was like, well, don't you want it to match the other ones, with the hanger and all that? And I'm like, I'm not really that worried about that. Especially for something like that. But we're going to see. I still have, and I told him, I still have much time to figure out what I'm going to do with that. I'm 3 diamond paintings away. Let's be real here. So Friday, I was done work. I honestly don't remember. Oh, I didn't work on Friday. That's right. Our job canceled. So I had the day, right? So I had a plan in my head because it was rainy and yucky and awful the whole day. So we had a plan. We were having dinner at home because we really don't eat out very much anymore. We really try to limit it to once a week. And Jill had just let me know that Scream 6 was on Paramount Plus. Well, I have Paramount Plus now. And I was like, ooh, I want to see that movie. I loved all the other ones. Now, Bill is not a movie person. He will watch a movie with me, and there are a handful that he has actually paid attention to. But for the most part, if I want to watch a movie and he says yes, he's on his phone. Which doesn't bother me normally. So he came home from work and I said, hey, I would really love to watch this movie tonight. Do you mind? He's like, no, that's fine. So we have dinner. I put on the movie and he's immediately on his phone. Okay, great. Now, when I literally am watching a movie like that, there are certain movies that I won't diamond paint or stitch with. I really want to pay attention. And this is one of them. So I'm watching, and we're not 3 minutes into the movie when he's talking to me and asking me a question about something on his phone. So I paused the movie, and he's like, blah, 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 whatever he was, something on Facebook. And I stopped when I finished answering this question, and I thought to myself, I'm not going to be able to watch this movie with him. I'm going to have to watch this movie on my own. And so I just turned the movie off and he's like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm just going to watch this on my own. And he was like, no, don't let me ruin it for you. And I'm like, you know what? It's not a big deal. And I thought to myself, That was a giant, huge learning lesson. No more am I asking Bill to watch a movie with me. No more. I want to watch a movie. I'm just going to watch it on my own. And, I always tell people, or I've talked about before, how I struggle with going to bed at a reasonable time. This is one reason why. Because there is so much TV and movies and shows that I watch without him. So it's imperative that I stay up when he goes to bed. Yeah. Okay, so that was Friday. Now, we had plans on Saturday to get up very early and be over my mom's at 8 o'clock because we were letting Charlize drive to Ocean City, which is a 6-hour round trip. So we got up at like 6:30 in the morning. So I could get ready, Bill could get ready. He packed a little cooler with like sodas and stuff because this would give her a pretty good chunk of time that she could write down for her driving experience, plus give her driving experience for sure. I mean, 6 hours is a chunk of time. And she has 31 hours before that. So right now she's got 37. Like we are more than halfway done. So I get car sick though. So I was already prepared to take Dramamine up and back. Well, it makes me sleepy. So I took little naps throughout the whole thing and it was fine. Like the ride up was fine. We were there about an hour. We walked on the boardwalk, got some fries. They walked down to the beach. Yeah, we were there for a tiny bit and then we got back in the car and came home. Let me tell you though, that ride home, it felt like I had been in the car for 500 hours. I was just like, OMG when we got back. So we got back home at like 3 o'clock. And Bill went off with our neighbor to do something across the street that has a boat and Bill's been helping him with it. And I had a job to index. I had laundry to put away. I also did like the online booking for our cruise where you got to put in like your passport number, pick the time you want to arrive there. We have to be there between 2 and 2:30 on May 13th. So I did all of that and that took me until almost 5 o'clock. And I was out there making a lemonade and he came home. So that was like good timing. So we had dinner and we were both just tired. I didn't get but 5 hours of sleep the night before. I went downstairs to go to bed at 10 o'clock on Friday, but didn't fall asleep until 1 and got up at 6:30. So Bill was also tired, just from doing that all day long. The driving to Ocean City. And then he did lawn work when we came home too. So 7:45, I was tucking him to bed and I came downstairs. I didn't stitch or diamond paint yesterday. And this morning I didn't wake up until 8:30. So that was the first time in a while that I had gotten actually decent sleep. And sleep is so very important. And I feel like I need to value it more because when I get proper sleep, I don't really want to eat junk or overeat. You know what I mean? Like there are many things that happen that when I'm tired, it doesn't bode well for me. So got up this morning at 8:30, put laundry in, had breakfast, read, and then I didn't get to the grocery store until 11. Now, I go to Giant now. I don't go to Harris Teeter anymore. I'll go there to get apples for Bill because he loves their apples. But everything else, I go back. I'm back to going to Giant. And that is like a threefold thing. Number one, I can use our reusable grocery bags and I can use the scanner. When I tell you that makes the whole process so much easier, I can't even begin. First off, I only have 3 reusable grocery bags, and usually I can fit all of our groceries in those 3 bags. So I only have 3 bags to carry in versus 50, like when you go to a store and everyone bags your stuff, right? As I scan it, I am putting it in the bag. So when I get up to the register, all I have to do is give the clerk the scanner. They scan it. I pay. I'm literally checking out. It takes me 1 minute. It's fantastic. Let me tell you. And then it is across the street from Starbucks. So when I go to the grocery store on Sundays now, I treat myself to a Starbucks. And today I got my coffee for free because I was able to use my reward stars. So I was very happy about that. Now, it's still raining here. Like, we have had so much storming and rain in the past couple days. Good God. And I think that's one reason. Like, I think I'm developing arthritis in my thumb on my right hand. I'm right-handed. I actually bought a new mouse that I use with my left hand, and I really like it. It's Bluetooth, it's wireless, and it's like an ergonomic mouse where it fits like the cup of your hand. It's not a rollerball mouse, which I used to use. This one you move. I'm going to link it down below. It was $70, fully worth every penny. It's very quiet. You don't even hear yourself clicking on it. I love it. It's by Logitech. Absolutely love it. So I'm hoping that me now not using the mouse with my right hand will help to calm that down. And I'm looking forward to having those 3 weeks off because I won't be on the computer as much because of not working. So I'm really hoping that will also give it a break. And I have a massage next week, and I'm going to tell my massage therapist about it. So maybe she'll be able to massage that area just a little bit better. I did finish a book. I finished that book that I was reading the night she vanished. So good. Loved it. And I'm getting ready to find a new book to read, but Kiersten Modglin has a new book released today. It's called Wait for Dark. So here is the premise. They want an ideal life. She's the only thing standing in their way. The Ashleys are determined to build a future detached from the issues in their past, and it seems to be working. They're happily married, in love, established in their dream careers, closer than ever to being debt-free. But when a mysterious opportunity arrives with an offer they can't refuse, everything changes. Soon, they meet her. She's rich, powerful, single-minded in her goals. She is not used to being told no. Worst of all, she knows about the dirty deeds they've done in the dark. If they don't do exactly what she wants, the ramifications of their secrets being exposed are endless. In a battle of wits against a woman who knows too much, the Ashleys find themselves with an impossible choice to make. Whom do you trust when the only person who can save you is the one who might bring you down? Now, I have read every single one of Kiersten Modglin's books, and I love them. I love her writing. So it's on Kindle Unlimited, so I will link it down below as well. Okay. I also started watching. Now, remember, if you have Paramount Plus also, Fatal Attraction released today. I don't know if all the episodes are on there. I haven't looked yet, but that's something to watch. It's a reboot starring Joshua Jackson. I started watching Dead Ringers on Amazon Prime. So Dead Ringers, it's another reboot from the 80s. And in the original movie, it was two men who were twins and they were doctors. This one is two women who are obstetricians and they want to open their own birthing center. And oh my. I watched the first episode and was like, oh my, okay. So I think there's, I don't know how many episodes, 6, something like that. So I will probably watch another one of those tonight, maybe, because I plan on stitching tonight for a little bit. Okay. So I want to read the daily devotional that I read today. And it's about efficiency and productivity. So efficiency and productivity. Now remember, this is Ryan Cook, and it is from the Heart of Worship website. Now, I'm very curious because the month of April, they studied Leviticus, and I don't know if they take a month to study a different book of the Bible. I hope so, because that will be amazing if so. All right, so efficiency and productivity are buzzwords you often hear in the business world. Sharp business owners ask, how can we do what we do better? How can I leverage my resources to maximize profits and efficiency? This attitude has led many to unbelievable success and is understandably valued in our society. In Leviticus 19, we read through a series of laws designed to provide Israel with practical examples of holiness in everyday life. One law commanded Israel to be inefficient in their work. And you would think, what? Right? At harvest time, Israel farmers were instructed not to harvest the edges of their fields. In a similar way, vineyard owners were not to go back over their vineyard a second time, but instead to leave the remaining grapes. In other words, Israel was called to not make the most out of their productive land. Why? This would allow the poor and the foreigner to harvest food. God cares deeply about the poor and the vulnerable. Through this practice, God instituted a way in Israel for the poor to work for their own food. It was not a handout, but a requirement to work, not a dependency on one individual's charitable impulse, but divine command. Israel farmers were not giving charity, they were simply obeying the law. This law reminded Israel that the land was ultimately not theirs, but God's. And if you read the Bible and you go by what this says, everything we have on this earth is not ours, it is God's. We are just being given permission to use it and enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? It encouraged them to show compassion for the poor and foreign resident and provide a way for them to integrate into society. This provision in the law enabled Ruth to provide food for herself and Naomi when they returned to the land of Israel without husbands or sons to sustain them. And Proverbs 19:17 says, take time to think creatively about how you can help the poor and vulnerable, a subject close to God's heart. And Luke 12:15 says, God warns us against greed, a perpetual temptation for believers. So a prayer is, Lord, are we guilty of greed, hard-heartedness, fear of the future? If there is something holding us back from giving and helping others, convict and change us. Bring to our attention the needy around us. And I don't necessarily feel like that giving has to necessarily be money, right? And that made me think of helping Charlize driving or answering a question that many of you have. I just had someone today email me and ask my favorite Facebook groups concerning cross stitch. So that's going to take me some time to go through and link that. But it's those kinds of things that just help this world along. Do you know what I mean? That help your fellow man. Doing the giveaway, which, speaking of giveaway, I do have a winner for the Space Explorer Hannah Lynn kit. It is Dina Albert. So Dina, I will have already contacted you by the time this video goes up via email. I will be mailing you the kit tomorrow. So enjoy, and thank you to everyone who entered. I think I had 55 people that entered. So yes, thank you so very much. All right. Today's cold case true crime story. It is called 40,000 Suspects. I can't even imagine what that means. It is one of the most popular shows on TV. A unique spin on the police procedural that focuses on the work of NCIS, the Naval Criminal Investigative Service. I've never watched that show, but I've heard it is very popular. After a slow start, it has racked up 18 seasons so far and spawned 3 spin-offs. Wow. One of those is based on New Orleans and features a lead character named Dwayne Pride. What you may not know is that Pride is inspired by a real person. His name is Dwayne Swear, and he served 22 years as a special agent with NCIS. These days, Swear is retired from law enforcement and acts as a consultant on the show. His job is to ensure realism, and judging by the reviews, he does that well. That's cool. Can you imagine being a consultant on a show like that? Back in the 90s, however, Special Agent Swear was knee-deep in a homicide. It would become one of the headline cases of his career. It started with the discovery of a corpse floating face down in Lake O'Neill on the U.S. Marine Corps base at Camp Pendleton, California. The victim was a slim African-American woman judged to be in her late 20s to early 30s. She was dressed in only a bra and panties, which had been pulled down to her knees. Cause of death was determined to be strangulation and blunt force trauma to the head. But who was she? Fingerprints would answer that question. The dead woman was Marilyn Allen, a 30-year-old mother of 4 from Ohio, who had abandoned her family and moved out west. Her current residence was in Oceanside, where she had been picked up several times for prostitution. Oh boy. From the start, it was clear that this was going to be a difficult case to solve. There was no DNA, no tire tracks, no foot impressions left in the soft sand of the lakeshore. That suggested that the victim had been killed off base and then driven to the lake and discarded there. Since access to a military base is strictly controlled, it reduced the suspect pool, but not by much. Hence, here's the title of the story. Over 40,000 Marines are stationed at Camp Pendleton, plus a small army of civilian workers. NCIS was up against it from the start. Agents worked the case hard, running down the scant leads they had. They never got close to identifying a suspect. Over the years that followed, the civilian authorities would also take a crack at the case with a similar lack of success. Jurisdiction would pass back and forth several times, further complicating matters. In the end, the case went cold. At this stage, there seemed little possibility that it would ever be solved. Okay, so when was it? What year was it? Back in the 90s. So then in 1999, there was an unexpected break. A young woman named Sinise Etienne contacted the police in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, with an interesting story to tell. According to Sinise, she had recently started dating a man named Roosevelt Gibson, a former Marine who had quit the Corps and now earned his living as a maintenance man on a riverboat. Gibson was extremely charming and had swept the 20-year-old college student off her feet during the early days of their relationship, showering her with gifts. But a few weeks in, and a dark side had begun to emerge. He had started hinting that he had done some dark things while he was in the Corps, things that he was not proud of. Oh boy. Sinise had automatically assumed that the things he was talking about had to do with military operations. She had tried to reassure him, telling him that everyone has things in their lives they'd rather not have done. Don't beat yourself up over it, was the advice she had given. No, you don't understand, Gibson had responded. This is really bad. A few weeks later, Sinise Etienne would discover just how bad. That was when Gibson confessed to her that he had killed a woman in California and thrown her body into a lake. According to him, he had grabbed the woman by the throat during an argument and had started strangling her. The woman had fought back, but Gibson had slammed her head several times into the dashboard, knocking her unconscious. He had then finished the job with his hands on her throat. Then, after fretting over what to do with the body, he had loaded her into the trunk, driven onto the Camp Pendleton military base, and thrown her into a lake. Sinise Etienne did not believe her new boyfriend's story at first. He just didn't seem the type, and why would he confess such a terrible crime to someone he had known for only a few weeks? No, Sinise decided he was making this up, even if she couldn't quite understand his motive for doing so. But then came the incident that would convince her that Gibson might be telling the truth after all. It happened during their first argument as a couple. They were sitting in Gibson's car at the time, and as things became heated, he shot out a hand and grabbed her by the throat. You see this finger right here, he told her, wiggling one of his digits without loosening his grip. I move this finger in a certain way and you'll be dead in 30 seconds, just like the other one. Oh my. Thankfully, Gibson did not follow through on his threat that night, but what about the next time he lost his temper? It was this terrifying prospect that convinced Sinise to call the police. They in turn contacted NCIS in San Diego. It did not take long to match the details Gibson had shared to the unsolved Marilyn Allen case. The case was then referred to the NCIS station in Baton Rouge, where Roosevelt Gibson was currently living. That was when Agent Dwayne Swear got involved. On the face of it, this was a straightforward matter. A man had confessed to murder, providing details that exactly matched an unsolved homicide. Case closed, right? Well, not quite. Gibson's confession to Sinise Etienne would never stand up in a court of law, not without corroborating evidence of which there was none. The only way to make the case would be for Gibson to confess his guilt on tape. That was going to require an undercover operation and Swear knew just the man for the job. The United States Marine Corps is one of the world's elite fighting forces, a unit with a long and storied history. Marines have a unique bond, one with the other. This is a brotherhood forged in battle, affirmed in blood. If Gibson was going to open up to anyone, it would be to a fellow Marine. And so, Swear turned to Jeff Wynn, a lieutenant with the New Orleans Police Department who happened to be a close friend of his. Wynn was also a gunnery sergeant with the Marine Corps Reserves and the first person that Swear thought of when it came to running his sting operation. Only Wynn wasn't interested. He had worked undercover before and knew the toll it took on an officer, let alone on his family. He responded with an emphatic no when Swear first pitched the idea to him. It would take all of Swear's powers of persuasion to talk him around. For the purposes of the operation, Lieutenant Wynn would become a maintenance man at the Riverboat Casino. There he soon befriended his work colleague and fellow Marine, Roosevelt Gibson. In his covert persona, Wynn was an embittered divorcee engaged in a battle with his ex over child custody and alimony. He was also a man with anger management issues. His way of blowing off steam was to reminisce about his days in the Marines, the firefights he had been involved in, and the fringe actions outside the Corps, some of them criminal. He found a willing audience and contributor in Gibson. He had his own demons to deal with, his own tales to tell. Only he wasn't sharing the one story that investigators wanted on tape, the story of how he had murdered Marilyn Allen. The key component in an operation of this kind is patience. The suspect needs to be given room to open up on his own terms. To push or to coax is to throw away all the hard work you've put in. Wynn knew this and held back. He sensed that he was winning Gibson's trust. He was right in that assumption. One day, during a lunch break at work, Gibson started talking. "Something happened to me at Camp Pendleton," he told his new friend. "It wasn't planned, it just kind of happened." Gibson went on to describe how he had picked up a prostitute in Oceanside back in 1992. He paid her $10 to perform oral sex on him, but wasn't happy with her performance, and so the two of them got into an argument inside his vehicle. "I grabbed her by the throat," he told Wynn, "and I just squeezed and squeezed." But the woman wasn't giving up without a fight. She slid down in the passenger seat and kicked out, cracking the windshield. Gibson then slammed her head repeatedly into the dash, knocking her out. "I didn't think about it," he said. "She pissed me off." His voice resonated with anger as he made this statement. It was as though he were reliving the terrible events of that September night. He finished his story by telling how he had snuck the body into the base in the trunk of his car and put her in the water. Oh my. Every word was caught on tape. In February of 2000, Roosevelt Gibson was arrested and charged with the murder of Marilyn Allen. Gibson was sent back to San Diego to face trial for murder. First, though, he would have to undergo a psychiatric evaluation to see if he was mentally competent to appear before a judge and jury. The defense was carrying an ace up its sleeve. Gibson had a history of mental illness and was diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic. In the end, though, the decision went against him. He was ruled competent to stand trial. He was going to have to answer for snuffing out Marilyn Allen's life. Jury trials can be tricky things. In this one, Assistant District Attorney Mike Still had a tough case to prove. Despite Gibson's admission of guilt, caught on tape and played in the courtroom, there was no corroborating evidence, no forensics, no witnesses. Perhaps that was behind the jury's decision to acquit Gibson of murder and convict him of manslaughter instead. Roosevelt Gibson was sentenced to 11 years in prison and served only 5 years before he walked free. Thereafter, he moved to Las Vegas, Nevada. He died there on August 20th, 2017, at the age of 45. His death was attributed to complications arising from AIDS. That's awful that he didn't, there was no 5 years, not enough for killing someone. Not even close. But we are going to end this on a positive note. I started reading a new devotional too called An Inspired Reflection, where it is a 12-day devotional, and it's almost like a journal prompt. So I want to leave you with this statement. So day 1 is called Resurrection and Regeneration. Things are going to get better. Today was rough, but you can't play with your power. Stay in faith and love. You continue to grow. Think about where you were and think about where we are. None of this matters if you can't stay close to God. To be successful, you must stay focused. God will let you do whatever you want, because remember, we have free will. Just make sure you are making the right decision. These moments are building you into your complete person. Don't be scared to get there. Discipline and accountability. I'm going to say that again, because these are not easy things. Discipline and accountability will be the test of your growth. No matter what, we got this. So I hope you guys are all having, like I said, a good Sunday. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.